Welcome to our session today. I am glad that you are all doing well. It is a pleasure to guide you through Chapter 5 of our Business Research Methods course, titled Formulating the Research Design. This is a critical stage in your MBA journey where we transition from understanding theoretical philosophies to planning the actual execution of a study. Let us look at our learning outcomes for this chapter. By the end of this session, you should be able to define the concept of research design and explain its primary purpose in the investigative process. We will distinguish between quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method designs, as these form the core of your methodological choices. Furthermore, you will learn to identify different research purposes, whether exploratory, descriptive, explanatory, or evaluative. We will also cover how to select and justify research strategies such as experiments, surveys, and case studies. Finally, we will differentiate between cross-sectional and longitudinal time horizons and recognize how to maintain absolute coherence between your research purpose, strategy, and chosen methods. To begin, we must look at the research onion in Figure 5.1. This model illustrates the stages a researcher passes through to develop a robust research design in a logical sequence of decisions. Think of it as peeling back layers. Each layer, from philosophy down to techniques, must reinforce the others to ensure credibility and methodological integrity. Your research design is essentially the general plan of how you will go about answering your research questions. Essentially, we strive for coherence. Internal coherence refers to the consistency between your choices across the layers. External coherence ensures your design aligns logically with your research objectives. For example, if you are exploring deep human meanings through a qualitative lens, you should avoid using purely statistical tests that might break this coherence and invalidate your findings. The first major step is making a methodological choice. You must decide whether to follow a quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods design. This choice depends heavily on three things: your research philosophy, the nature of your research questions, and the type of data you intend to collect. Quantitative research focuses on numeric data and objective measurement, while qualitative research deals with non-numeric data like words and images to provide interpretive analysis. Mixed methods integrate both to enhance understanding. For example, a retail manager researching customer satisfaction might use a quantitative survey to get broad scores, then conduct qualitative interviews to interpret the attitudes behind those scores, finally applying a mixed methods approach to triangulate and confirm the findings from both perspectives. Let's differentiate these further by looking at specific criteria. Regarding the type of data, quantitative research uses numeric data, such as employee performance ratings from 1 to 5. In contrast, qualitative research uses non-numeric data, like interview transcripts describing job satisfaction. For data collection, quantitative studies rely on questionnaires and structured observations, while qualitative studies use semi-structured interviews, diary accounts, or focus groups. When it comes to analysis, quantitative researchers use statistical and graphical analysis to examine relationships between variables. Qualitative researchers use coding to derive themes and meanings from the data. Philosophically, quantitative research is usually associated with positivism and a deductive approach to test theories, whereas qualitative research is linked to interpretivism and uses an inductive approach to develop new theories from data. Continuing our comparison, let's look at the characteristics and sampling. Quantitative research aims to examine, explain, and predict relationships using standardized techniques that allow for generalizable findings. Qualitative research seeks to understand perceptions and experiences using non-standardized techniques. In terms of sampling, quantitative research uses probability sampling, like a random sample of 400 customers, to enable generalization. Qualitative research uses non-probability sampling, such as a purposive sample of 15 highly engaged individuals, to gain a deep, rich understanding. Common quantitative strategies include experiments and surveys, while qualitative strategies involve action research, ethnography, and narrative inquiry. Methodologically, you can have mono-method designs using one technique, or multi-method designs using several techniques of the same type, such as combining interviews with field notes in a qualitative study. Now, let's look at a class activity to test your understanding. Depending on your research question type, you must choose the best method. If your question is, does X influence Y, like does training affect sales, you should choose a quantitative method because relationships are tested statistically. If you ask, how do people feel about remote work, that's qualitative because you are exploring experiences and meanings. Questions about how many or how often require quantitative frequency descriptions. However, asking why is this happening, such as why do customers churn, requires qualitative methods to discover underlying reasons. Understanding the size of an effect is quantitative, but understanding the meaning people attach to a value is qualitative. Experimental comparisons like A/B tests are quantitative, while process tracing of how a team implements a new system is qualitative. Moving on to section 5.3, let's discuss mixed methods research design. This involves combining quantitative and qualitative data collection and analysis in a single study. It is most often associated with the philosophy of pragmatism, which takes a what works approach to address the research question. Mixed methods can be deductive, inductive, or even abductive. There are two main design types. Concurrent mixed methods involve collecting both types of data simultaneously and merging the findings, such as a survey with an open-ended feedback section. Sequential mixed methods occur in phases where one method informs the next. Exploratory sequential designs start with qualitative data followed by quantitative testing, while explanatory sequential designs start with quantitative data followed by qualitative interviews to explain the trends found in the numbers. It is about getting the full picture. Let's look at some business examples for mixed method designs in this activity. In a sequential explanatory design, denoted as quan followed by qual, a manager might see a survey showing low net promoter scores and then conduct interviews to explain the specific drivers of that dissatisfaction. In a sequential exploratory design, which is qual followed by quan, a researcher might use interviews to surface new factors affecting productivity and then develop a scale to survey those factors across the whole company. Finally, in concurrent triangulation, or qual plus quan, you might run a survey while simultaneously conducting focus groups on the same topic to compare the results. These designs are optional but highly recommended for your projects to provide a more sophisticated and comprehensive understanding of complex business phenomena. Why should we use a mixed methods design? Table 5.1 provides several compelling reasons. Initiation allows one method to define the scope for the next. Facilitation helps one method lead to new insights for the second method to follow up on. Complementarity allows meanings and findings to be elaborated and clarified. Interpretation helps explain relationships between variables that emerge from quantitative data. We also use it for generalizability, ensuring the relative importance of a study is established. Diversity allows for a greater range of views to be reflected, while problem solving helps when one method reveals unexplainable results. Finally, focus allows you to look at macro aspects quantitatively and micro aspects qualitatively, while triangulation and confidence ensure that your findings are corroborated and not just an artifact of a single method's limitations. Section 5.4 focuses on recognizing the purpose of your research design. Purpose refers to why the research is conducted. There are 5 main categories. Exploratory research uses open questions to discover what is happening and gain insight, such as exploring new AI uses in marketing. Descriptive research aims to gain an accurate profile of events or persons, like profiling the career aspirations of MBA students. Explanatory research establishes causal relationships between variables, such as testing if leadership style impacts performance. Evaluative research finds out how well something works, like evaluating training programs' effectiveness. Lastly, a combined approach uses a mix of these, such as studying both what happens when employees leave and why it is occurring. Understanding your purpose is essential for choosing the right strategy. Now, let's look at choosing a research strategy. A strategy is your plan of action to achieve objectives. There are 8 main strategies to consider. Experiments test cause and effect relations quantitatively, like A/B testing marketing messages. Surveys use structured questionnaires for broad quantitative data. Archival and documentary research uses existing records. Case studies provide in-depth analysis within a real-life context. Ethnography involves studying the social world or culture of a group over time. Action research is a collaborative process to develop solutions, often used in HR. Grounded theory develops theoretical explanations directly from collected data. Finally, narrative inquiry interprets personal stories or events, such as leaders narrating their experiences of change. Each strategy has its own strengths depending on whether you are looking for broad trends or deep, specific insights into a business problem. This class activity helps us match strategy, philosophy, and method. An experiment is rooted in positivism and is strictly quantitative. A survey is also positivist, but can sometimes be used in a mixed methods design under a pragmatist philosophy. A case study is typical of interpretivism and can be either qualitative or mixed method, such as analyzing Amazon's logistics management. Action research and ethnography are both strongly aligned with interpretivism. Action research is often qualitative or mixed, while ethnography is primarily qualitative, focusing on observing teamwork culture in a startup, for example. When planning your own research, you must ensure this alignment exists. If you claim to be an interpretivist but only use a strictly controlled experiment, your design will lack the necessary coherence we discussed earlier. Section 5.6 addresses the time horizon. You must ask, do I want my research to be a snapshot taken at a particular time or a series of snapshots over time? Cross-sectional research collects data at one single point in time. It is quicker and more cost-effective but is limited to current conditions, such as a survey of customer satisfaction in March 2025. Longitudinal research collects data over a long period to study change or development. While it is more time-consuming and expensive, it is incredibly useful for studying trends and causal relationships, such as tracking employee motivation over 3 years from 2023 to 2026. Your choice here will depend on your research question. If you want to see how something evolves, you must choose a longitudinal horizon despite the extra effort. A vital part of any design is ensuring reliability and validity. Reliability refers to the replicability and consistency of your results. If someone else follows your steps, will they find the same thing? Validity refers to the appropriateness of the measures used, the accuracy of the analysis, and the generalizability of the findings. For example, a researcher measuring leadership effectiveness ensures reliability by using the same validated scale across different samples. They ensure validity by verifying that the questions they are asking actually reflect real-world leadership behaviors, and not something else like personality or likability. Without high reliability and validity, your research findings cannot be trusted by business leaders or academic reviewers, so you must build these into your design from the very beginning of the planning process. We must also be aware of threats to reliability and validity. Threats to reliability include participant error, like answering a survey when tired or hungry, and participant bias, where people give false answers because they feel watched. There is also researcher error, where the researcher's interpretation is flawed, and researcher bias, where the researcher's own views influence the recording of responses. Threats to internal validity include past events that change perceptions, the impact of the testing process itself, changes in research instruments, and mortality, where participants drop out of the study. Maturation and ambiguity about causal direction are also concerns. Being aware of these allows you to design controls, such as ensuring anonymity to reduce participant bias or using standardized instruments to reduce instrumentation errors, thereby strengthening the overall quality of your research design. Let's apply these concepts to Case 5, Managers' Challenges when Dealing with Change. Noelia Sarah Reynolds studied how middle managers in a large organization perceived their roles during a strategic merger. This merger caused significant stress and altered leadership structures. Reynolds adopted an interpretivist philosophy to capture subjective meanings and used a qualitative, inductive approach. She implemented a multi-method qualitative design, combining in-depth, semi-structured interviews and diary accounts. This was a longitudinal study conducted over several months to observe shifting attitudes. Her findings revealed that middle managers acted as change interpreters, balancing organizational demands with employee emotions. The study highlighted the vital roles of trust and communication. Through this inductive process, she developed a conceptual framework linking sense-making to successful change implementation, providing deep insights that a simple quantitative survey might have missed entirely. To review the case, let's look at the questions and model answers. Which philosophy and approach fit? The answer is interpretivism and an inductive approach, as the focus was on subjective meaning. The research strategy was a multi-method qualitative strategy using interviews and diary accounts. The time horizon was clearly longitudinal because data was collected over several months to observe change. Finally, how does this show coherence? The design shows perfect alignment between the interpretivist philosophy, the inductive approach, the qualitative methods, and the longitudinal horizon. This coherence ensures that the insights into managerial behavior are valid and deeply grounded in the reality of the manager's experiences. This is exactly the kind of methodological thinking I expect to see in your own research proposals as you move forward. As we wrap up, here are the key takeaways for your exams and projects. Remember that research design is the framework that connects your philosophy, method, strategy, and time horizon. Coherence across these layers is what guarantees internal consistency and credible findings. Whether you use quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods, ensure they serve your specific research purpose. Be clear about your time horizon, whether it's a snapshot or a series over time. Always prioritize reliability and validity to strengthen the trustworthiness of your study. As a final thought, a well-chosen research design is the roadmap that transforms a simple research idea into meaningful, actionable results. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing your research designs develop over the coming weeks.